The current war in Ukraine is the latest chapter in a long and turbulent history between Russia and Ukraine. These two nations share deep cultural and religious ties, but their relationship has been marred by centuries of conflict and mistrust. From the Tsarist Russian Empire to the Soviet period, Ukraine was often under Russian control. The collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 offered Ukraine a chance for independence. The 2004 Orange Revolution marked a turning point against Russian interference. It signaled Ukraine's growing desire for democracy. Russia viewed these developments with suspicion. The annexation of Crimea by Russia in 2014 escalated tensions. The war in eastern Ukraine became a bloody prelude to the current conflict. On February 24, 2022, the world watched in shock as Russian forces launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This unprovoked act of aggression shattered the fragile peace in Europe and plunged the region into its worst conflict since World War II. Russian President Vladimir Putin attempted to justify his actions by claiming that Ukraine was a hotbed of neo-Nazism and that Russia needed to protect Russian speakers in the Donbas region. These claims were widely dismissed as baseless propaganda by the international community. Putin's true motives, many analysts believe, lie in his desire to restore Russia's sphere of influence in the former Soviet space and to prevent Ukraine from aligning itself with the West. Despite facing fierce resistance from Ukrainian forces and mounting international pressure, Russia pressed on with its offensive. The invasion has resulted in a catastrophic humanitarian crisis, with millions of Ukrainians displaced from their homes and countless civilian casualties. The war in Ukraine showcases a wide array of military hardware, from sophisticated fighter jets and tanks to artillery systems and drones. Russia initially held a clear advantage in firepower. Moscow deployed T-72 and T-90 tanks, advanced fighter jets like the Su-34 and Su-35, and BM-30 Smerch artillery systems. Ukraine, using Soviet-era equipment and Western-supplied weapons, mounted a spirited defense. Javelin anti-tank missiles from the US have been effective. Stinger anti-aircraft missiles have helped level the playing field. Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drones have struck Russian tanks and supply lines. The war in Ukraine is not just a clash of armies, it is also a battle of wills between key leaders shaping the conflict's course. On the Russian side, Vladimir Putin, the architect of the invasion, has emerged as the face of aggression and brutality. Sergei Shoigu, Russia's Minister of Defense, has overseen the planning and execution of the military campaign. Valery Gerasimov, Chief of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces, is another key figure responsible for Russia's military strategy. On the Ukrainian side, Volodymyr Zelensky, the President of Ukraine, has become a symbol of defiance and resilience. His refusal to flee Kiev and his impassioned pleas for international support have rallied Ukrainians and earned him global admiration. Valery Zaluzhny, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, has emerged as a skilled military strategist, effectively leading his country's defense against a much larger foe. The war in Ukraine has had a devastating impact on cities and towns across the country. Mariupol, a strategic port city in southeastern Ukraine, has become a symbol of the war's brutality. The city endured weeks of relentless bombardment by Russian forces, leaving it in ruins and its residents facing a humanitarian catastrophe. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, has also been subjected to heavy shelling, with residential areas, hospitals, and cultural sites targeted. The capital city of Kyiv, while repelling a Russian advance in the early stages of the war, has also faced missile strikes and drone attacks. These urban battlegrounds have witnessed some of the fiercest fighting of the war and have become focal points of the humanitarian crisis. Millions of Ukrainians have been displaced from their homes, seeking refuge in safer parts of the country or fleeing across borders into neighboring countries. The United Nations estimates that over 14 million Ukrainians have been internally displaced or have become refugees as a result of the conflict. The Russia-Ukraine war has sent shockwaves throughout the international community, prompting widespread condemnation of Russia's actions and triggering a wave of sanctions against Moscow. The United States, the European Union, and their allies have imposed unprecedented economic sanctions on Russia, targeting its financial institutions, energy sector, and key individuals. These sanctions are designed to cripple the Russian economy and pressure Putin to end the war. In addition to sanctions, Western countries have provided Ukraine with billions of dollars in military aid, including weapons, ammunition, and intelligence sharing. This support has been crucial in bolstering Ukraine's defenses and enabling it to resist Russia's invasion. The International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into possible war crimes committed in Ukraine, signaling a commitment to holding perpetrators accountable for atrocities. However, the international response has not been without its limitations. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, while providing support to Ukraine, has ruled out direct military intervention, fearing an escalation that could lead to a wider European war. Alongside the military conflict, a fierce information war is raging between Russia and Ukraine. Both sides are vying for control of the narrative, seeking to shape public opinion at home and abroad. Russia has deployed its vast propaganda machine to spread disinformation and false narratives about the war, seeking to justify its actions and undermine support for Ukraine. State-controlled media outlets have peddled Kremlin talking points, portraying the invasion as a special military operation aimed at denazifying and demilitarizing Ukraine. Ukraine, for its part, has sought to counter Russian propaganda by highlighting its own narrative of resistance against an unprovoked aggressor. Social media has become a key battleground in the information war, with both sides using it to disseminate their messages and counter opposing narratives. The Ukrainian government has effectively used social media to rally international support, share updates on the conflict, and counter Russian disinformation. The information war has also extended to the realm of cyber warfare, with both sides engaging in hacking and cyber attacks. The war in Ukraine has had a profound impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains, fueling inflation, and raising fears of a global food crisis. Russia and Ukraine are both major exporters of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil, and the conflict has sent shockwaves through global commodity markets. The war has also disrupted energy markets, as Russia is a major supplier of oil and gas to Europe. The sanctions imposed on Russia by the West have further exacerbated the economic fallout, leading to higher energy prices and increased volatility in financial markets. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, has warned that the war will have a severe impact on the global economy, slowing growth and pushing up inflation. The war has also highlighted the interconnectedness of the global economy and the vulnerability of supply chains to disruptions. The conflict has underscored the need for diversification and resilience in supply chains to mitigate the impact of future shocks. Despite the immense challenges they face, the Ukrainian people have shown extraordinary resilience and determination in the face of Russian aggression. Ordinary citizens have taken up arms to defend their country. Volunteers have mobilized to provide humanitarian assistance, and the Ukrainian spirit remains unbowed. The international community has also shown solidarity with Ukraine, providing humanitarian aid, military support, and imposing sanctions on Russia. However, the path to peace remains uncertain. Negotiations between Russia and Ukraine have made little progress, and a negotiated settlement seems elusive as long as Putin remains committed to his maximalist goals. The war has already claimed tens of thousands of lives, displaced millions, and caused immense destruction. The war in Ukraine has entered a protracted phase and with no clear end in sight. Several potential scenarios could unfold, each with its own implications for Ukraine, Russia, and the wider world. One scenario is a negotiated settlement, but this seems unlikely given the lack of trust and wide gap in positions. Another scenario is a prolonged stalemate, with neither side achieving a decisive victory. This could result in a frozen conflict similar to the situation before the 2022 invasion. The Russia-Ukraine war represents a defining moment in the 21st century. It is a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in the post-Cold War era and the dangers of unchecked aggression. The conflict has already had a profound impact on Ukraine, Russia, and the wider world, and its consequences will continue to be felt for years to come. The war has also highlighted the importance of international cooperation and the need for a rules-based international order. The international community must stand united in its condemnation of Russian aggression and its support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The outcome of this conflict will shape the future of Europe and the international order for generations to come.